We will just wait a couple of seconds, then we will start. Hello, everyone. We're very happy to have you with us today at this webinar. Please share with us at the comment section from where are you attending. Thank you, Sinul. Welcome. We're happy to have you. And thank you for Abdullah. Rana Hassan, Sarah Rajba from Saudi Arabia. We're very happy to have you. Also, we have Samir Jabir from Lebanon, Javed from Astra Tech Dubai, Rana from Pakistan, Khalid from Tunisia. We have people from like not around the MEA region and beyond. So we're very happy to have you all. This is Amira Al-Amaira, Research Team Lead at Solar Arabic, and I will be very happy to moderate today's session. Our topic today is UAE C&I Solar PV and BESS market outlook. Currently at the Emirates, the question is not from like, should we go solar? It's now, how do we do it right? With the rising performance expectations and the tighter project timelines and the stronger sustainability and resilience goal, PV and BESS are no longer just a technical discussion. It's increasingly moving toward to be a strategic and a finance one. Here's how today's session will run. We will start with Engineer Brwa Mohammed from AIKO Energy, who will deliver a discussion about the AIKO Energy, who are thankfully our today's respectful sponsor to this webinar. And then we will move to a 30 to 35 panel discussion with our esteemed expert from the UAE market. And don't forget to leave your question at the Q&A section at Zoom and on social media. We will move back and get your question and our expert will answer them. Please let me introduce our esteemed expert. We will start with Brwa Mohammed, Business Development Manager for the MEA region from AIKO, who will introduce himself right now. Brwa.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. I'm Brwa Mohammed. I'm Business Development Manager for Middle East and Africa in AIKO, focusing on distribution and the C&I projects.
Thank you very much, Brwa. Moving next to Mr. Valantis, the Vice President of Sales Enablement from Yellow Door Energy.
Thank you very much, Amira. I think I'm audible. I'm Valantis Mikrommatis, Vice President of Sales Enablement at Yellow Door Energy. A quick brief about Yellow Door Energy. We have been in this market for the last 10 years. We're a developer of solar solutions. We have reached around 400 megawatt of solar, and we are focusing on the Middle East and South Africa region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we're very happy to have you. And we always happy to work with Yellow Door Energy, and the other and AIKO and Emerge. Now moving next to Yas Shah, the Senior Project Developer at Emerge.
Hi everyone, I'm Yash Shah, a Senior Business Developer at Emerge. Emerge is a joint venture between Masdar and EDF Group. We develop, finance, and operate solar and energy storage projects for commercial and industrial customers in the region to help them achieve their decarbonization goals. And we're coming up on some very exciting landmark agreements and projects over the year and helping the region advance its sustainability targets.
Thank you very much, Yash. And moving next to the audience, we will just have a quick question to get to know you better. You will have a poll that will be at your screen right now. Answer us, where are you joining us from? For the people who are attending at the social media platforms, please leave your answer at the comments, and we're very happy to have you all. Just 1 minute till everyone answers. Okay, 30% are from UAE, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, and Kuwait. 15% from Saudi Arabia, 11% from Jordan and Palestine, 7% Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and others are 22%, in addition to a lot of percentage from North African country. Thank you all for joining us today. Now I will hand over to Brwa, who will give us the sponsorship introduction.
Thank you, Amira. I'll try my best to make it short and informative. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes,
Okay.
but
good.
I can make it full screen and you're set to go.
Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Brwa Mohammed again from AIKO Solar, Business Development Manager for Middle East and Africa. So we'll just quickly, we'll go through the short introduction of AIKO, and then I'll discuss the all back contact technology features. And then if we have time, we'll discuss shortly about the scenarios and the advantage of using ABC technology. AIKO introduction is AIKO is a tier 1 company. We have more than 10,000, or now it's more than 50,000 employees globally, and we have achieved 160 gigawatt accumulative shipment. What's known by AIKO is known for mostly is the R&D center that we have 3-1, and we spend more than 450 million only on R&D. So quick introduction about AIKO. AIKO was established in 2016. In 2019, in the PERC type era, P-type era, we invented the mass-produced 210 millimeter cell, and then in 2021 we officially released the 26 plus cell, 26% plus cell efficiency, and in 2022 we introduced by the 720 watt modules, the big size modules, to the market. In 2023, we invented the back contact bifaciality rate, which is reaching 70%, which was an obstacle overcome by AIKO. The all back contact before they were monofacial. Now we are talking about dual glass, and we are talking about bifaciality. In 2024, AIKO introduced 25% module efficiency, which was a big step toward the advancement. And as I mentioned before, we have $451 million R&D research in the last 3 years. We have 3 research centers, 2 in China and 1 in Germany. Now the AIKO is one of the company which exponentially developing from 44 gigawatt total annual capacity. Now we are targeting 106 gigawatt in the coming years, or now it's in the construction period in Guangdong, EU, in Jia. So this total of 6 factory annual production very soon will be 106 gigawatt. Without any other introduction, that when we are talking about back contact, mostly the module, as you can see, the modules are different even in the shape. As you see, there's no bus bars in the front side. This affects not only starting on the module side, starting from the silicon wafer, the higher quality that we need, and then when you reach the cell stage, we also need to be different. So basically, what is there? The positive and negative side, you have both on the back side. So whole the structure, or the whole the industry is different from the previous technology of N-type. Regarding AIKO's achievement, we are really proud. We have been on the top of achievement ranking for more than 3 years now, and we have achieved great milestones while keeping this top ranking of AIKO. And this can be said back to the automation system that we have in the factory. And as we have one of the most advanced factories in not in the world only, in China, also among all the our competitors. So from A to Z, all the manufacturing steps are automated. That's why we can achieve the highest precision and also the mass production capacity that we have. The three main unique values that AIKO is providing, I will be discussing very briefly. We have the safety. We want to be ultra safe. We have high power generation, whether it's either specific area, we want to have the highest generation possible, or using the less land usage when we are talking about big project or ground mounted. In the end, what's our target is to achieve the higher return. Each of these unique values I will be discussing and shedding light on them. So what we are mainly focusing on this one from now on, we are talking about the Gen 3 of AIKO that we are going to discuss. We have 780 watts delivered power, which is the big modules, the 130 centimeter width, and we have that, as we call them, the standard size is 113. We have 670 watts monofacial, lightweight, and we have 665 dual glasses. So this will be the main product that we're going to talk about. Regarding the first unique value, when we talk about extra efficiency or higher efficiency, what's the effect on the project? So when we have the same installed capacity, for example, we have a project like 50 megawatt, the amount of land needed by using back contact will be almost 5% less. So when we are talking about less BOS, so less of cost of land, civil work, steel, cable, everything will be less by 5 when we have a specific power like 50 megawatt. Or when you, in case of C&I, when we have a limited area, we cannot go beyond it. In this case, we are expecting on the same area, we are expecting above 6% higher generation. So the efficiency is highly affecting the project that we are working on. Second point that we are focusing on is for the roof mounting scenarios like C&I, when we have the module attached to the roof. In these cases, especially for metal roofs, the weight is one of the issues that we have. So for example, our light module monofacial 670 watt is 28 kilo compared to the competitors or the other modules in the industry when they are 32.8 or 33 kg. So imagine if you have for each 1,000 module, you have 5-ton difference in weight. So this is the other point. And second point that we have is due to the back contact technology as general. In any cases, we will have the roof be, the surface of the cell to be covered. In these cases, the ordinary modules that we have the bus bars on the front side, it will be covered. So this cell, instead of being electricity conductive, it will become a resistance, as we know. So this will make it a high temperature. But on the back contact technology, even when the surface cover, okay, we are losing generation from this cell, but the circuit is not open. So the circulation is not open. By this, we can say the temperature difference. So it will not become a resistance. So the temperature difference between top cone and back contact that we have comparing here, it will be half. So top cone may reach 150, 160. The back contact is still staying under 70 degree. And we did a test, as you can see in this video. We cover one cell of each module with the removing the diode. So there's no safety. So this is an extreme condition. What happened, you can see in a while, the temperature is rising up. It's getting even to the, we are facing fire or explosion in this one. So I will remind you again, this is an extreme case. We remove the diode from this test condition, but you can see the difference. And it's all due to back contact technology. Regarding TopCon, there's another issue that we have facing for reliability. In the TopCon module, we see when we connect the cells in series, you have to connect positive and negative. So it's going like a Z shape, the bus bar between the cells going like a V shape, as you can see. So it's a high stress on this area. But with a back contact condition, the bus bars are going behind the cells, so in the back side. So there's no stress. Secondly, that we have all the PV industry now is using silver paste, which have a very fragile structure as a material. In our Gen 3, we are using the copper. It's 100% copper. So it's giving us two advantages. So more flexibility as a material and stronger structure, and hopefully less fluctuation in the prices. So we just make a quick test to see this how fragility of the silver compared to copper. We have two identical cell. We have a weight hitting them the same speed. As you can see, TopCon's totally crushed or shattered, but still the circuit in the cell of back contact is still on. So what does this mean for projects? So when we are talking about some scenarios, when we are facing a lot of, let's say, differential movement like this from the surface, we face it with the big modules, especially on the floating structure, or even in our region in UAE, we face the ground mounted with a high wind speed area. So due to the flexibility of a steel as a material for the mounting structure, we will still have some, not vibration, some movement, deformation in the steel. So in these cases, the back contact technology, especially Gen 3 with the copper material, we are higher resistance to micro cracks compared to other technologies.
Brwa, I'm sorry, can you wrap up in 2 minutes?
Okay, I'll go fast.
Okay, thank
So
you.
there's one other thing that I want to share, and that's it. So when we have another thing from back contact is the shading optimization. So as we call it, it's not a technical term, but we can say it's we have a bypass for shadows on a cell level. So when you have a shadow, you only lose this part of the module. As you can see, especially in C&I, we always have a chimney, air handling unit, a pole, lightning pole. So there are shadows that moving all around. What we used to do, we used to sacrifice the area or sacrifice the generation. But with the back contact technology, we don't need that to do that anymore, because only the shaded area will be affected. So I have a presentation of this. So this is one of the cases when we have some dirt on the specific area, like in the current condition, with a TopCon, actually the concept is very clear. We have 3 diodes, so we have 3 circulations here. So any shaded on this area will lose 1/3 of each generation. It's each diode generation. But with the back contact technology, we are only losing the shaded area. So as untechnically called optimization or bypass over a small area. So I'll skip the videos. What does this mean for our region? In our region in UAE, we have as we call it, dust shading. What does that mean? The shade, especially on the ground mounted or even the metal roof mounting system, the shade is staying in the lower side of the modules. So it's causing in current technology, we are always losing 50% of our generation, because all the diodes in the second half of the cell is gone, because you have dust all over this area. But with the shading optimization feature of all back contact technology, we are only losing this part. So we are talking about the difference between 4% compared to 15%, and this can be has been verified by TUV, as mentioned that in the partial shading conditions, ABC technology is providing more than 33% energy compared to TOPCon. Another point is really important for our region is the temperature coefficient that we are facing, because the ambient temperature in our region is 40, 45. But when we go to the module temperature, we are talking about plus 30, so 70, 75 degree. On these scenarios, back contact technology, because it has a lower temperature coefficient, we are talking about extra 2% generation compared to TOPCon. And another point, we have the degradation. So we are giving a linear production linear generation warranty for 88.85% after 30 years, which is 0.35% per year after the first year, which is another 2 extra percent. So in a summary, what we have discussed, that we are offering partial shading optimization, so less losses due to partial shading like poles, chimneys. Second point, we are talking about higher temperature restriction. So when we have a partial shading for the cell, less temperature is affecting us due to causing fire risks. That's why all back contact technology fire class is A, compared to fire class of TOPCon and other technology to be E. We have micro resistance, and we have better degradation and better temperature coefficient. So I was planning to talk about some projects. I don't think I have time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, we're very interested to hear more about AIKO's project, but unfortunately, we ran out of time. Perhaps we can get back to this at the Q&A section.
Okay,
So, thank you very much, Brwa. Now, before starting the panel, I'm really enjoying the community at the chat box. I can see people from all over the globe, from Russia, from UK, from South Africa. So I invite everyone to share your LinkedIn profile. Perhaps we can build a community and contact afterwards. Now, let's start with the topic. The first topic that we will discuss is the key trends and the C&I segment that are very active in UAE. So I will start with Yash. What are the key trends that you see most clearly, especially in terms of who's buying and why now?
Thanks, Amira, for the question. So yeah, that's a very good way to think about this. Well, the first thing is that solar has now moved from a discretionary to a more strategic solution. Now, many C&I organizations see solar not just as a nice to have ESG initiative, but it's also a core lever used to control their costs, to look at energy resilience, energy risk management, and to lock in certain tariffs for the mid to long term, especially in a market like the UAE, where we're continuously seeing more and more energy load demand increasing. And if you look at all the forecasts, you only see this rising over the next 10, 20 plus years. Now, regarding your question about the kinds of buyers and industry segments, well, we are seeing a lot of demand or requests from structured C&I segments. So some examples are industrial and manufacturing facilities, logistics, warehousing, retail and mixed-use developments. And I think recently everyone's seeing the rise in data centers across the world, and especially in the Middle East and UAE, with some large strategic agreements. So they are a very heavy energy user who are also looking at solar as a part of the energy mix. So there are a lot of these different companies that are evaluating the need and benefits that they can get from solar. And the last thing I would say is that the market now is becoming a lot more sophisticated. So a lot of the clients are aware of the different business models, and they can weigh in the benefits of something like a power purchase agreement versus capital investment, and what suits their energy profile and financial statements a little bit better. So we're at a stage where, due to the customers being informed, it's a lot less about the awareness and it's a lot more about optimization of these systems, the technical feasibility, and then just scaling it up.
Thank you very much, Yash. And Valantis, I want to hear your point of view. Do you agree? And from your point of view, what's the active segment in Yellow Door energy pipeline, for example, and what's different about how those customers decide?
Absolutely. Amira, I think Yash summarized it very well. At the end of the day, energy intensive users, either that is the steel industry, the cement, the aluminum industry, cold storage, these are all segments that are actively looking to gain from the benefits of cost savings. ESG is very important, sustainability is very important, but we truly believe that cost savings will close more deals than ESG at the end of the day. Of course, ESG is one lever that we cannot remove from the equation, especially with carbon border adjustment mechanisms coming through. A lot of companies in this part of the world wanting to export to Europe and globally. Having solar on the rooftop is very important, both for their energy mix and both for the decarbonization strategy of these companies. I'm going to touch on the point that Yash mentioned. He mentioned how customers are becoming more sophisticated, and that is music to our ears. I think developers would definitely prefer to work with more sophisticated customers who are open to discussing more complex solutions, that be it adding a battery energy storage component to their mix or working towards a mini grid or a hybrid solution. So the sophistication comes at the end of being in the market long and understanding the ins and outs of different market levers. Yellow Door has been around for 10 years, and I think we're very proud to say that we have contributed to that education of the market.
Thank you very much. Valantis, I want you to stay with me because the next question is about the regulatory updates in the UAE, especially those who are relevant for the C&I and PV plus BESS projects. So I want to know from your experts what the regulatory and the policy are matter the most right now for the segment that we are talking about.
Absolutely. Amira, let me set the tone first by basically saying that the reason that we are in business, either that is developers or contractors or module suppliers or distributors, is because of regulation. I mentioned before about the 10 years of existence of Yellow Door. We started our journey based on the Shams Dubai scheme that came into fruition in 2015. We also supported a lot of the schemes in Jordan, a different scheme that has to do more with offsite solar. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that we're in business because of regulation. Regulation is evolving, regulation isn't dynamic, and regulation learns from other parts of the world. And at the end of the day, needs to keep all stakeholders happy. What we have seen recently in Dubai is a focus on specific sectors. The D33 regulation has a focus on data centers, on agricultural facilities, and on new manufacturing facilities. That's something that as a company, and I believe Competition 2 is looking forward to understanding a bit more, getting some guidance on how we could do more based on this regulation, which allows for a larger amount of megawatts to be installed on your site. And I think that's a very positive move. As regards other Emirates, we do hear that there is discussions going on. We do have projects in Abu Dhabi utilizing the self-consumption methodology, of course, but any sort of regulation will be welcomed. And as a prominent developer in this industry and with experience working with different kinds of regulations and business models, we will adapt and, of course, showcase our expertise to work around any hurdles and any education that needs to take place.
Thank you very much, Valantis. And also, Yash, I'm very interested in knowing your perspective from a key developer as Emerge, from your execution lens, how this is impacting the feasibility and the timeline in real projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, like Valantis touched on this, policy and regulations is a very essential driving factor for renewable penetration. Now, fortunately, now versus maybe 10 or 20 years ago, we're at a point where we don't necessarily need to rely on incentives as much as trying to address some of the bottlenecks or some of the friction that some of the regulations come in. I think something Valantis mentioned was an emirate like Abu Dhabi, where maybe as of now, we don't have any incentive for excess energy fed to the grid, but maybe that policy is a little bit different in Dubai. So even within UAE, there are a few different policies that all learn from each other. And the more projects that are done, the more developers like Emerge, like Yellow Door, like other developers in the region develop projects, you will start seeing some of these things transition. And one example I can give you is there are some areas where regulations aren't currently fully established or in place. But fortunately, with Emerge, we've had some great opportunities to be with some of the policymakers, be with some of the regional utilities to explore and to try to address the problem. And I'll give you two examples. One of them is a project in Sharjah called SNOC, the Sharjah National Oil Company. Now, Sharjah is not a place with a large existing regulation like Abu Dhabi or Dubai. However, with a grid-connected solar project such as the Sana plant with SNOC, Emerge was able to not only explore how solar can interact with the grid in Sharjah, but it also helps the local regulators see the real-time impact of such projects. And hopefully it will pave a path for more projects within the region, not just for ourselves, but for the industry in general. And the second example I will give you is with the Northern Emirates. Like we touched on, Northern Emirates is a place where the regulations are very rapidly evolving year on year. Between this time last year and now, there's a lot more buzz about what the market can see, what the rules could end up being. And Emerge signed a very landmark MOU with the Ras Al Khaimah Economic Zone to explore the impact of solar, of distributed on-site solar. And so these kind of projects show what you can do within these regions where regulations might not be clear yet. And it helps us educate and also learn from the people around the stakeholders that are affected by it on how can we do this better and what can we change within the regulations to make this process a whole lot smoother.
Like the particular message is that the regulatory clarity is improving in some areas, and we're expecting that it will be improved and expand to the other emirates in the future, and that will really impact the whole markets. Now, my next point is the operational and space constraints. I want to start with Brwa. Like when we talk about the technology lens. When we say constraints, we mean roof limits or heat, dust, shading, safety, and uptime. What tech advancements are making the big difference in UAE C&I markets?
Actually, Amira, that's really a great question from a PV manufacturer side. We are doing our best, especially as AIKO, to overcome these obstacles or mainly use them as a advantage, or there are no more limitation or our generation. So what we, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have for the C&I scenario, we have different technologies to support. We have the lightweight modules for metal roof. On the other hand, we have the partial shading, which will affect generation because as you can see, there's always some issues that mention that, okay, we have the, let's say, simulation, we're supposed to get X amount, and now we are getting 70% or 60% or even 50% of what we agreed upon. So these are coming for a real life conditions. Real life condition where we are talking, as you mentioned, temperature, dust is one of the biggest issues that we have because to overcome it, you will need extra investment in the cleaning. So what we have introduced, we introduce partial shading optimization to overcome the shade problem. We introduce the back contact technology safety compared to other technology to mitigate the risk of fire. So another point that we are working on achieving the higher and higher generation from a limited space. So we are increasing the efficiency. Now we have reached over 25% module efficiency, which will increase the generation by 5 to 6% compared to the previous technology. So we are working on it. The techs on the way to overcome these obstacles.
Thank you very much, Brwa. Valantis, when you work with C&I clients, what are the top objections you get, like the space, the distribution, operation, safety, warranties, etc.? And how do you address them?
I think space is very important, Amira. A lot of these energy-intensive users and some of them that are part of the portfolio of Yellow Door, namely be it Bahrain Steel, Emirates Steel, they require a lot of energy to run. Space is a constraint, and coupling with the regulation question that you shared before is something that could be worked around. I think there was a second part of the question about what other constraints do I experience when I talk to energy intensive users. Of course, there's a large need of batteries for these solutions. We have our own pilots, we have our own case studies of where we added batteries to some of our sites. I think it's very important to understand that the battery technologies and the battery costs are declining. And it's very important to understand that the idea and what used to be a dream 10 years ago of being able to run a mini grid or being able to run a solution that could be partially off grid is becoming closer and closer. At the end of the day, we are a business that works with all kinds of business models, like I mentioned before. So anything needs to be done in accordance with regulation. Having examples like the ones that Yash said in Emirates that don't have any regulation at the moment is great, but at the same time, it needs to be open to everyone to understand how we can work around it, and it's both a matter of project and a matter of technology that what could be accepted.
Actually, thank you very much. You mentioned BESS and C&I. BESS and C&I is the next point, and my next question is also to you, Valantis. Like, let's go straight to the big one. When does BESS genuinely add value in UAE C&I beyond the nice to have?
Understood. We do a lot of business in Saudi, and we see that there's a lot of remote locations where BESS makes very much sense. I would say that the same situation occurs in some remote locations. Either that is in the Northern Emirates, either that is in some remote locations even of other more prominent Emirates, where building a transmission line, building a substation will take time and would cost a lot. Some of these projects are already in discussion phase. Some of these projects are going to be announced very soon. But what is very important to understand, Amira, is I want to drill down on the technology. The solar curve over the last 10 years, you have seen how the costs have declined. I mean, we have Brwa here on the call. He probably might have a bit of a different opinion based on the recent changes. But I can definitely tell you that the battery energy costs are declining at a faster rate. And this is where the levelized cost of electricity and the affordable tariff that a lot of these customers are seeking is becoming more and more achievable.
Yeah, thank you very much, Valantis. Yash, I really want to also hear your point on this point.
Yeah, I'm happy to address this. So honestly, Valantis touched on it very well. We see a big chunk of the BESS price actually being the material or the component prices. And it has dropped quite significantly over the last 2 to 4 years. That said, I think one thing that we're all cautious about is that a lot of the forecasts now say that that rate of decrease in prices is going to get pretty stagnant. We might not see that much more of an exponential decrease. It might start flattening out, which will be something we need to be cautious about. Now, to answer your original question about the use cases, BESS is still extremely use case heavy and not always a purely economical move. So you see off-grid applications as almost no-brainer because BESS can very easily achieve solutions at a much more economical value compared to diesel gensets. On top of that, of course, the environmental impact is substantially lower, or it's substantially more positive compared to diesel generators. So for these applications, BESS is a no-brainer. Regarding grid-connected applications, that's a little bit more challenging. As of now, most of the regulations don't necessarily endorse BESS connected to the grid just yet. And even in some regulations where it doesn't explicitly forbid it, like the ones in Abu Dhabi, the reality is that there aren't really any tangible projects that can show these connections. So it is still technically allowed, but not actually implemented, which is what makes the implementation a little bit more challenging. So I think where we are today, BESS is very, very more advantageous for off-grid applications, but we all would like to keep an eye and hope that between a mix of the reduction in prices and some more favorable policies, we can start applying BESS for even some grid-connected use cases in the country.
Thank you very much, Yash. Moving to the final point is that what's the most accelerates and perhaps what could even slow down the next phase of growth for C&I solar and storage in the UAE. I want to hear the perspective from all our esteemed experts. So I will start with Brwa. What's the accelerator? What's the blocker from your point of view?
Amira, from our side, from the PV manufacturing side, now the turbulence in the prices, the raw material, even the change of policy, it will create uncertainty, and it may affect or de-accelerate the combination, and it will come to great developers like Emerge or Yellow Door to how to recalculate or optimize their calculation accordingly. But regarding because we are mostly at the technical side of these cases or these scenarios, so what we can do are always required to provide higher efficiency to overcome the area limitation, best generation, less degradation. From these points, and any advancement in these criteria will support the acceleration of C&I, especially in our region.
Okay, thank you very much, Berwa. Moving to Valantis. Give me one accelerator and one blocker, please.
I think accelerator is maybe because we always talk about regulation and we imply that it has hurdles. I'm going to look at it more on the positive side and say maybe clarity on the process is what is needed instead of a refurbishment of that regulation. We talked a lot about batteries today. I mean, at the end of the day, batteries, like Yash said, it doesn't work everywhere. I mean, there's no reason to start talking about batteries in Abu Dhabi, where the grid is very prominent and the grid is very resilient and the grid is very strong. Batteries, at the end of the day, are future-proofed. They provide peak shaving. They can provide different capabilities, but solar carries the economics of this. I would say clarity. Clarity is the most important thing that we have to take into consideration. And we should not forget that we are commercial companies. We're looking at commercial structures. We have shareholders. We're looking at returns. And in order to meet those returns, we need sophisticated customers and we need educated markets. So I would give another positive, which is my strong belief that the market that we're working in the UAE has reached that sophistication and has reached that understanding of what requires to have an optimized solution on your roof, on your premises, on your site.
Thank you very much, Valantis. To Yash, one accelerator, one blocker, please.
Sure, yeah. I think already some great points were touched on. I'll go the route of the accelerator is more about the financial stability that's brought by such projects. With some markets in the GCC, we're seeing some rise in the electricity tariffs from the grid. Whereas when you lock in a solar project with a developer such as Emerge or Yellow Door, you get the security of that fixed tariff throughout the duration, whether it's 20, 30 years. So these are some levers that help a structured financial security, and it also helps with project bankability, which makes financing projects a little bit easier as C&I contracts are maturing. So I think that the more development of solar projects is going to help with better access to capital, and it's going to help people realize that they can lock in some more guaranteed savings or energy efficiency or cost efficiency over a long period of time. The blocker, so I'll go the opposite route because policy, like Valantis said, can be a huge push, but at the same time, it could also, more policy friction could be challenging. An example is that, one of the positive policies we see is something like D33. However, there are some aspects of it that do make it a bit more challenging. As an example, with the previous initiative in Dubai, you would get 100% of your energy that you have fed to the grid back as a credit on your next billing cycle. Whereas with the D33, it's net billing, not net metering, which means that the energy is sold to the grid at a fixed tariff, which is often a much smaller amount than the tariff you would pay to get the electricity. So, of course, it's a development in policy, and that's fair, and that's something we need to work around. But if there were to be more policy friction or roadblocks that are introduced in the future, it could adversely affect the industry significantly.
Thank you very much. So to sum up, the growth levers are the financial stability and the huge demand and the regulation, while the main risk are also could be the regulations and the rising prices and the instability prices of, let's say, globally for the solar panels and some of the equipment. Great insights. Thank you, everyone. Now, before we open the Q&A section, one quick poll. What sector do you work in? Please share with us in the poll at Zoom and write your answer at the comments on the social media and YouTube. We will just give it a couple of seconds. So we have a 23% consultants, around 15% developers, 23% from EPCs, and we have independents, public sectors, service providers, and OEMs. All welcome. We're very happy to have you. Now, let's move to the Q&A section. We received a lot of questions. I'm going to start with the first question to Brwa. What technology would be leading next by AIKO? Heterojunction or maybe titanium?
Okay, from the perspective that we see, look, there's a different approach to answer this question. Back contacts, as a general, it's a platform. So this platform, you can use it on P-type. It's developed by N-type back contacts by AIKO. So our next step for AIKO will be tandem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My next question is from my CEO, Walid Al-Hallaj, is asking about any news about regulations in UAE allowing BESS on grid and returns, allowing higher connected capacities. Valantis, do you have any news about that?
Not that we know of. I don't know if Yash has any insight.
Till now.
No, I think it's one of those things where, look, there's nothing official about this. Like Valantis mentioned in his previous point, right now the government has been working on grid resilience. There is grid-connected BESS in certain regions. I mean, you've seen the Mazda round-the-clock project, which is the first of its kind in the world, right? It's 5 gigawatts plus 19 gigawatt hours of BESS. However, these are utility level projects. So these are grid connected at the utility level with utility providers like EWEC, not at the commercial and industrial scale yet. Maybe the success of such projects could result in some more flexibility down the line. But like Valantis said, as of now, I don't necessarily see any updates in the short term. And there's no news that we've heard on this.
And I think it's important just to add to what Yash just mentioned, to differentiate between the costs related to such a large-scale project and the costs related to C&I. The scale is nowhere comparable, and the optimization that large project that was mentioned by Yash cannot be achieved at the C&I level.
Thank you very much. Yash, also I want to know your perspective. Someone asked about how much harder is to finance BESS in long-term agreements, and does it harm the bankability of the project due to the higher risk?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I think the answer is less about how difficult it is to finance the projects, but it's more about the actual bankability and about the feasibility of projects. So look, in all of our revenue models, we will include battery degradation. Also, battery lifespan won't be the same as PV modules. So we would also bake into the model the battery replacement costs and timeline, the battery maintenance costs. All these things are always factored into our revenue models. So that does help with the bankability for lenders. The big challenge is that as of now, the cost of BESS is still significantly more than PV. So it does make a pretty big impact on the actual feasibility or the tariff that we would be able to offer off-takers. And oftentimes, because it's a very price-sensitive industry, it could be the make or break between projects. So yeah, to answer the question, I think it's mature enough where we understand the safety nets, the metering, the insurances, the prices that need to be factored in to make lenders feel safe. But it's not always enough because it affects the price of the commodity a lot harder.
And I think, Amira, if we can add a point, is that we haven't seen the end of a battery project. Solar has been around for some time. If you go on different sources, the National Renewable Energy Labs in the US, they're taking solar that has been installed in the 70s and it still works. We haven't seen the end of a battery. We hear of its failure rates in some cases, its replacement rates, but until this technology becomes prominent, until it builds years, until it builds resilience in the hot and dusty environments that we work in, the answers are still up in the air, let's say.
Thank you very much, Yash and Valantis. My next question is from Vera Tolshiba. She asked about the PIPV solution in UAE, let's say in the C&I section. Are they used?
Amir, I'll take that because we have a couple of examples of PIPV. We have actually one customer that I can openly mention. It's our AIKO project. We had a nice ceremony a groundbreaking ceremony of that project, I think a couple of months ago, that we used BIPV. BIPV in that project is not the prominent technology. Of course, we have installed on the rooftops, on the car parks. I would say BIPV is complementary. It doesn't achieve the efficiencies, of course, of traditional solar. There is no support mechanism that I know of, but it is, of course, something that developers like ourselves, in order to increase capacity, especially when constraints of space are a limitation, is something that we include in our solutions.
I just want to tag on to that a bit. There's another very interesting project, I think, with Brwa's new headquarters in Dubai. They've introduced a lot of BIPV as well. So yes, there are some very cool projects in the region, but the reality is that BIPV does affect the finances of the project quite significantly because it affects the operations and maintenance, which is not as straightforward. The efficiency, like Valantis mentioned, is obviously going to be a lot lower. So while it's a cool concept and, with more advancement in technology, maybe in the distant future, we can see some more interesting facade and integrated projects. But from a purely economical point, for developers like us, it's often a little bit more of a challenging solution and not always the most bankable solution.
And I think Amira and Yash gave the Brwa example, which is a new headquarter. BIPV works better from a design perspective when the building is not already built, let's say. A lot of the new developments in Dubai, I think one of the many developers that exist in Dubai the other day was advertising that some of its new buildings will have BIPV. When you're at design stage, when you're at the drawing board, it's much easier to include nascent technologies like BIPV. Going back and retrofitting on the walls and on facades that have not been designed to welcome BIPV makes the challenge much more difficult.
Thank you very much for all of that. Like, I really enjoyed the discussions about this point. Moving next, my question is to Brwa. Like, they want your or AIKO's overview about the module pricing for the rest of 2026.
Okay, that's actually a very difficult question, because the honest answer is we don't know precisely, but we can see from the raw material market, silver, copper, aluminium, all the raw materials are on a crazy bullish rally. So most probably the prices, as we see it until now, there's a permanent increase, as I see it personally. Second point is we have the change in policy. The tax refund was removed from PV modules. So starting from the 1st of April, for sure this 9% increase we'll see in the prices. And then we have the raw material price increasing. So from my perspective, I think the prices are going up, at least what we are seeing now.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Moving next with Marah's questions about how companies evaluate the potential benefits of solar with their energy strategy and financial statement. I believe, Yash, you want to start answering this question.
Yeah, sure. I think this is a very good question. And look, I think the first and the easiest way I can answer this is with a lot of models, a lot of developers in the region, including ourselves, we often something called guaranteed production or guaranteed generation. Now, what this often helps companies is that you have a minimum threshold of savings you can factor in to your finance, your balance sheet, because if we are short of those guarantees, often we would compensate you for the difference between what's provided from the grid and what savings we were promising. So already these type of guarantees in solar purchase agreements or power purchase agreements give clients a certain security and certain safety that they can lock in a certain metric over the contract duration. And anything above that is an added bonus. So I feel like with these type of levers within contracts, clients have a very high oversight on the potential savings. And on top of that, there are other performance guarantees like the production ratio, but performance ratio. But I think the most important one is having these guarantees that can directly translate into the financial equivalence.
Thank you very much. And I wish that we had more time to discuss. I really enjoyed the insights from all of you guys, but unfortunately, we reached to the end of today's session. Thank you everyone for your excellent questions, and big thanks to Brwa, Mohammed, Valantis, Mikrommatis, and Yasha for sharing particular and real market insights. If you have follow-up question after this session, feel free to reach out. We hope today gave you a clearer and more actionable view on this UAE C&I solar PV and BESS outlook. Have a great day, everyone.